And we're on. We're coming to you from sunny Lewis today, and I am here with my fantastic co-host Daniela Bowker.
And hello, by the way, this is Haje and Kamps. He's an author and a photographer, and he's also the CEO of Trigger Trap. We'll talk about more about that later. Hello again.
So Daniela is here because she has just written a really cool book called Surreal Photography.
I think it's cool, thank you.
It's wicked. Basically, this book is an introduction to all the cool things you can do with photography, where you're trying to make things look like things can't really look in real life.
Yeah, they're supposed to look like they come from another world, or maybe 5 degrees to this world.
That makes sense. So it's got a really cool collection of things done with Photoshop, I believe.
There is a lot of Photoshop in there, but it's not all Photoshop, which I think is one of the most exciting things about this book. It also teaches you how to use infrared filters. It also uses iPhones or any other kind of mobile device to which you can download apps. And it also shows you how to make surreal looking images using papier-mâché and props and things like that. So it takes in the whole gamut of photographic skill. It's not just about Photoshop, which is why I love it so much.
Fantastic. I really like that. It seems as if the book is kind of in 2 halves. The first bit is quite heavily on explaining how to use the different technologies and stuff, I believe.
That's right. It is in 2 halves. The first half deals with the practicalities of taking surreal images. So what type of camera you might want to use, what type of additions you might want to the camera, and as well, it also walks you through basic Photoshop processes, so that when you start building surreal images, you're not sort of foundering in the dark. You've got an idea of where to go and what to do.
Yeah, it's got lots of really good examples in it. I've just found a picture of a bunny with headphones on and lots of paint.
Oh, it's lovely.
I love this book. It's so cool.
Thank you.
The one I wanted to ask you about actually was this one on page 29 here.
Okay.
It's got a load of photos here, and it looks like this wasn't actually done in Photoshop, was it?
No, the photo to which you're referring, which is me emerging like the steam from a kettle, you can see it on your screen now, was taken with an iPhone. I snapped a photo of my mum's hob kettle, and then using Trigger Trap, I took a photo of me lying on the sofa in a sort of a vaguely steam-like pose.
How many times did you have to try to get a good steam-like pose?
Quite a few. That was a whole morning.
Very flighty.
That was a whole morning.
Awesome.
And then I merged the two together using an app called Juxtaposer.
Wait, so you didn't do that on a computer?
No, I did it on my iPhone.
That's
sat there
awesome.
holding my iPhone and merged them together. Juxtaposer is a great little app. You layer pictures up one on top of the other, and then you erase data from the uppermost image to reveal the lower image, and you can make
like
them
layers
a bit like layers, but you can make the images larger, smaller, you can rotate them, you can flip them over, I think, and then you create a composite on your phone. So I spent many hours doing that. Then I finished it off with Snapseed to give it sort of a more high-key look, and that's what you get.
Yeah, well, I absolutely love this. The cool thing about this is that this wouldn't look... I can see it if you see very carefully, but this wouldn't look out of place if you thought it was done on a computer with Photoshop, with like retouching and stuff. How long did this take you?
It was a good few hours of work. But the great thing about it is that you can pause and come back to it. So if you do need to, I don't know, go and answer the phone or just do something else, or you can't complete it in one block, you can come back to it.
That's just completely blown my mind. That's fantastic. I really like that. And the second half?
The second half of the book is photos from 24 photographers who contributed to the project very kindly. Again, taking in completely different elements of surreal photography. Some of them use infrared and Lightroom, some of them use Photoshop, some of them use GIMP. And one lady creates dioramas, which she builds herself by hand using found bits and pieces. The photo that she submitted here was created using ball bearings, epoxy resin, and a polystyrene box, which she then created to make it look like a Hungarian bathhouse, except this one has goldfish and prawns in it.
That's really fantastic.
It's fantastic, and it just goes to show you that you don't have to use Photoshop to create fantastic surreal images.
And when is it available?
It is available now for download from the Ilex Instant site, and I believe that there is 50% off at the moment as well. Adam going to nod at me? Yes, it is. And it will be available from all good bookshops and the ubiquitous Amazon from the 10th of June.
Fantastic.
So please do go and buy it, because I am rather proud of it.
And it is a really good book. You're not allowed to say that.
No, not all of the pictures are mine, and I think it is full of very pretty pictures.
Awesome.
Thank you. Should we talk about your book now?
Go on.
What, your new one, this one?
Yeah.
Shooting Yourself.
Indeed. Yeah, no, so I have actually, this is the first time I've actually picked up this book. When I walked in the room here, it was on the table, and it's the first time I've seen it. It looks amazing. I love it. It's a really cool collaboration from lots of different photographers, and so yeah, lots of learning experiences there with how to work with other photographers. Mm-hmm. I quite like that in general, actually. A lot of photography does happen in a lab, where especially with the stuff I'm doing. I do a lot of high-speed photography, and you just find yourself in a dank basement somewhere, dropping droplets of milk into a plate for 6 hours, and you don't really get to interact with people or get inspired by other people.
I think that's why at social media sites where you can get feedback on your photos from other people, even if you produce them in a vacuum in isolation, if you get other people looking at them constructively and saying, hey, that looks really great, or did you try doing this? You might find that works better next time. Yeah. It's so beneficial.
Do you have any tips for how you can get constructive criticism out of people? Because I find when you post something on Facebook, people click the like button, or they might go, ha ha ha, you look like an idiot. But you don't really...
It's about actually going out there and giving constructive criticism yourself as well. If you give it and show how to give it, people are much more likely to give it back to you as well. They'll go looking at your work as well and think, rather than to say, oh, that looks great, which is a lovely compliment, and it is great to have people say, I think your photos are fantastic. But sometimes you do want people to say, you know what, your composition there absolutely rocks, or have you thought about maybe angling your lights like this instead? You might find it will help you. But if you go out there and give criticism, people will often come back and help you as well.
That's quite similar to what I found, I think, as well, and especially on sites like Flickr is really good for that, actually, because
it's very reciprocal.
Yeah, and it's very easy to, if you get a comment from someone, you're only one click away from taking a look at their photos, and there seems to be much more of a atmosphere for giving criticism as well, because on things like Instagram or 500px. What do you say? 500
I think
pixel?
I think it's 500 pics, but I don't know.
Okay, 500 something or other. There seems to be a lot less interaction between the different users.
I think there's also Flickr has a really strong community. It's been around for a very long time. It has over 5 billion photos there, created by however many million users. And there is a sense of community, and it's very well curated in that you can join different groups. You can find people who share interests, or there's also a massive amount of information sitting there. If you need to find out how to do something, try searching Flickr, because there will be forums discussing it, and you can find out what you need to know there. It's a hive of information.
Awesome. So, what else should we talk about? Oh yeah, I wanted to talk about this one. This is a book, here's one I did earlier. I just had the best piece of information I've ever had a while back, today in fact, which is that this thing actually completely sold out.
Yes.
So you can't buy this anywhere anymore because they have to reprint it. So apparently the next shipment is on its way.
Hopefully that won't get stuck in the South China Seas by a typhoon.
But there is one place you can get it, of course, which is the Ilex Instant. So you can actually download the ebook of this. And again, we'll have a 50% discount
All coming up.
If you tune in later. So yeah, I'm super excited about this one, by the way. I haven't actually talked about this one. Let me go back to this for a second.
Can I have a look at it? What are you doing?
Sure. So basically what this book does is it discusses the various rules of photography. I think it's a really important thing to think about, which is to understand why a lot of the photographers are using particular rules to do particular things. So, getting the exposure right, getting your focus right, getting your lighting right, making sure that everything.
Sorry, microphone. Sorry, people who are listening.
And making sure you have all the different things coming together is really important. And then you can start thinking, okay, now that I know why and how you do things, you can start thinking about changing gears a little bit and, turning things on its head, breaking the rules, coming up with ways of making things more interesting. The interesting thing I find is that a lot of people who break the rules without knowing them, you end up with photos that don't seem to have direction in a way.
Yeah.
They're really creative and really inspirational in a way, but they don't seem to. It's as if they're a little bit confused. Whereas people who've decided to break the rules for a particular reason, or they kind of know that, normally you use the rule of thirds because it's more balanced. So if you get a really stark, really kind of straight down the barrel kind of composition on something, then that means something. And if it means something, then you're trying to convey a message or an emotion.
It's the old adage that you have to know the rules to break them properly.
Mm-hmm.
And that's precisely what this book does. It shows you what the rules are and it shows you why they work and why they exist in photography at all.
Yep.
And then it says, but actually, you can also do it this way and it will work because, or experiment to see. But unless you actually know what you're doing first, you're not going to be able to make a strong picture.
Yeah, exactly. Anyway, so there must be lots of people who agreed because,
They bought it.
It kind of sold out.
Yes.
But yeah, it should still show up in bookshops again soon, and you can buy the ebook version today if you want.
Yes, it's all there ready to go.
Awesome.
I'm
Other
looking
cool.
at our list here. That's
Sorry,
what
we
it
have a
A running
list
order.
of things. So the other thing we wanted to talk about is a cool little project we've just relaunched
Yes.
last week. Tell us about that.
Okay. Shall I bring up a page so that people
Go for
can
it.
see it? Okay. Give a minute. There it is. This is our website. It's our baby. It's called Photocritic, after him. And it's everything you should know about photography in one place. We cover the news, we do tutorials, we write features that look at different elements and aspects of the photography world. We even do reviews as well, if we're lucky. We launched on Friday. We were supposed to launch today, but there was a little sort of minor technical glitch, so we launched on Friday.
It's good though. Whenever I've done web projects before, the technical glitch means that you launch 6 months late, not 4 days early.
No, not 4 days early. But
But it could be a lot worse.
we would love it if you came and read what we wrote there. It's mostly us two writing at the moment, but we'd like to think that we'll have some other people.
Yeah. We're looking to get some more
Pitching
people
in.
involved and kind of get some excitement going there.
But we write about anything that's associated with photography that we think is cool and interesting.
Yeah. Totally.
I spend most of my time there. I'm the editor. That's what you do.
So I'm going to have a quick look at Twitter now and
Oh,
see
are
if
you
we have
really?
any questions yet.
Oh, people of Twitter, have you asked us anything?
I don't know yet. Let's have a look. Let's have a look.
What should I talk about in the interim?
I don't know.
Shall we go to a break?
Let's go to a quick
Does that mean I
break.
get a cup of tea?
2 minutes.
Awesome. See you guys soon. That went relatively well. And the microphone still works. So yeah, this is the Shooting Yourself book, which is And we're back, I think. Are we back? We're back. Excellent.
Fantastic.
So we just had to take a quick break to read some Twitter. It turns out that multitasking is definitely not my strongest suit. So yeah, we have a couple of questions.
We do.
But as you guys just saw on the little advertising break, the books that we've been talking about here, all three of them in fact, are available from Ilex Instant now, and you get a 50% discount if you use the Ilex Live code at checkout. I've also got a special offer on trigger trap stuff with the same code, but I'll tell you more about that later. What are the questions we've had so far?
Okay, first question is not the question that's actually there. I've clicked on the wrong thing, but I do remember it because I've got one of those kinds of memories, which is, if you were to have only one photography app that you could download to your phone to save your life by taking a photo, what would it be?
Bloody hell, that's not very light-hearted, is it?
No, and really difficult too.
It is. The thing is, I don't actually use that many photo apps on a very regular basis. Do you?
When I was making the Surreal book, I started to use a lot more apps, in fact. But to be honest, I stick with Snapseed most of the time. It really does meet all of my editing needs. You can crop, you can adjust the colour.
Snapseed is the one I do use the most as well. The other one I probably would bring, only if I can bring some friends on my desert island, is Viclone. I've been playing with that a fair bit recently, and it's really, really good fun, because basically what you do is you have two or more people with iPhones or with Android phones, and you can film at the same time, and then when you press send, it uploads it to the cloud, and then all the videos get combined into one, and you can kind of edit your own director's cut of that video.
I like this idea.
It's a really cool little app.
Also, I've been playing around with a new app quite recently called Colour Time, which is great for adjusting the colour balance in your photos.
Okay, like white balancey type stuff.
Yeah, and you can do it selectively as well. So if you've got particular areas of your photos that are where the white balance is slightly different to another area, you can fiddle about and you can do it selectively.
That's really cool.
Quite good fun as well. I wouldn't recommend it for any of the cropping type stuff. Definitely stick with Snapseed for that, but for colour balance, really great. It's called Colour Time. Take a look.
Didn't Snapseed become free recently as well?
It did, yeah.
Didn't Google buy them or something?
Google bought it, and it wasn't free immediately, but they have since made it free to download. If you're not using Snapseed, do go out there, do download it. It's probably the best editing app out there.
I paid for mine, and I'm actually perfectly happy with that. It was definitely worth it.
It was worth it. It was what, $1.99?
Something like that. I can't believe they actually made it free. That's really good of them.
But yes, I paid for it too, and I didn't begrudge it a penny.
Awesome.
Still don't.
So that's good. What else are we going to talk about?
Travel photography?
Yeah, sure. Oh, we have another question.
We have another question, you see.
Go on.
Which is that both of us travel a lot, mostly with cameras. What are our top tips for travel photography?
That's a question from Angela.
Yes.
I know Angela. Hello, Angela. Basically, I have kind of a philosophical thing about travel photography, which is thinking very carefully about how you want to travel, because it's very easy to travel halfway around the world and then see your entire holiday through a tiny little square, and it doesn't make for a very good trip in a way. So I always tell people, if they ask me for travel photography advice, is to think about why you're traveling. Are you traveling to take photos, in which case you're probably carrying an entire bag full of photo gear with you? Or are you taking photos for a different reason? Are you mostly traveling and then taking pictures to remember what you're doing, or to kind of just show your friends and that kind of stuff? You can still take very good photos, but there's a conceptual difference there where I found myself in Indonesia recently, and I thought, actually today I'm not going to bring my camera, and it felt really weird, but
it's really liberating.
But it turned it into a really good holiday in a way. And then I had a chance to actually see all the things I would have photographed, and thought you kind of think about photography in a completely different way when you don't carry a camera with you.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. I would say that equally, don't be afraid to not take photos. Don't feel that because you're somewhere you have to take a photo of it. If you're not feeling it, don't worry about it.
We just made our photography advice, don't take pictures.
Yeah, pretty much, basically, yeah. Don't take photos.
No, we're going to put the publisher out of business by saying never take pictures.
But also, never ever try to edit or decide which photos you want to keep or dispose of on the fly. When I was in
on the
Morocco,
camera.
never do that. When I was in Morocco a couple of years ago, I took some photos in the souk in Marrakesh, and I wasn't particularly happy with them, but it was a really busy day, and the souk in Marrakesh is really, it's a busy, bustling place, and I couldn't really check them anyway, but I wasn't really feeling them. When I got home, I looked back through them, and one of them ended up being my most favourite photo that I took that trip, and was probably one of my favourite photos that I took that year.
Awesome. Is it in the book?
No, it's not actually.
Shocking.
No, no, it's not. But if I had been sort of rushing and hustled and looked at them very quickly on the back of my camera, I would have deleted it, and then I would have lost my favourite photo. So take your time, don't rush. That would be.
Makes sense. My other big photography tip is to think backups as well, because when you're traveling about, you're taking lots of really cool photos, but I don't know how you guys travel. I tend to stay in some right dodgy places. I had an amazing one in Vietnam actually, where we went into this hotel room, and it was by far the dodgiest hotel I've ever stayed in. It was weird. This one room had 3 showers in it, and I thought, this is so weird. And then we saw lots of stickers on the walls and stuff, and they turned to be warning stickers against HIV. And I was like, I don't want to sleep in this bed. This is such a scary place to be. But anyway, so when you're staying in dodgy places, there is a risk that your stuff gets stolen, and there's nothing. You know, if your camera gets nicked, that is annoying, expensive, but that's what travel insurance is for.
That's what insurance is for.
If
You can't get your pictures back.
Exactly.
So make
find
backups.
a way.
Use different memory cards and keep them on a cycle, and keep them in different places.
Yep.
In a wallet, in a back pocket, some in your camera bag.
Yeah, exactly. It's also possible to get really small hard drives that you can.
Yeah.
I make sure I have one my computer with all the pictures on them in my luggage, and then in my hand luggage, and then the little hard drive
in your actual bag.
goes in the checked luggage. So I'm unlikely to lose both of them unless the plane crashes, and then I have a completely different problem.
Yeah, and actually, when I was writing the Surreal book, quite a lot of that was written when I was in Australia, and I made sure that it was the whole thing was backed up in various different places when I was travelling.
Do you use Dropbox or something like that?
I do use Dropbox, and I also use Amazon's cloud drive as well.
Yeah.
Again, keep it in different clouds as well, because you never know what might happen to the cloud.
It
might start raining.
Awesome.
Speaking of just doing something slightly telepathic there, we have just had a question from Carly Wong, who is in the Shooting Yourself book. She said, did we both plan to wear red, or are we telepathically connected?
Well, if we had planned to wear red, it wouldn't have clashed quite this badly, I think. I don't think taking fashion advice from me is a particularly good idea anyway, but...
Technically it's tangerine.
I'm pretty sure that wasn't the question. Awesome. Do we have any more questions, or what are we talking about next?
I can't find any more questions.
One from a gull girl.
Okay. What have we got?
This is coming from Adam, who's sitting there manning also 2 computers, several cameras, and a couple of softboxes, just so that you know what our setup is like here. And he's wearing big headphones.
I'll be honest, I can't now find it.
Okay, Adam now can't find it.
I saw it go past on, Mac OS has those things that flash up and then just vanish.
Awesome. Okay, when you find it, let's do it. What else should we talk about?
Do you want to talk about Trigger Trap for a bit?
I do want to talk about Trigger Trap.
Just to remind people, Trigger Trap was the program, essentially application I used to take the photo of myself, which went into making the kettle image in there.
So Trigger Trap is a bit of a crazy one, actually. This started happening when I was writing books quite a while ago, and I was tinkering with building my own photography equipment, and at some point decided to try something new. So I was building trying to build a camera completely from scratch, and I failed so miserably it wasn't even funny. But as part of that, I kind of wanted to do some auxiliary stuff. So I was trying to build some lenses, I was building some like reflectors and light shapers and that kind of stuff, relatively easy stuff. But I also wanted to do some droplet photography, which means, you have a droplet that falls down, it splashes into a little ball, and you try and capture it. Now, that's a really cool thing to do for your photography, but the challenge is you end up with a lot of trial and error as you're taking the pictures. So I tried to build myself a laser sensor, a little laser beam that goes across the space above the bowl, and then when a droplet falls through it, it splashes and it takes a photo. So at some point I figured, hey, wouldn't it be cool if this actually existed as a product? Wouldn't it be cool if this existed as a product? So I started sniffing about and kind of building this thing, and ended up with a little device that became Trigger Trap. So it was a Kickstarter campaign at first, and then the Kickstarter campaign went really, really well, became quite successful, and when it succeeded...
Hang on, just a minute. When you say quite successful...
We were looking for $25,000, and ended up getting 77, I think.
Yeah, that's the highest definition of quite successful.
Well, it was quite successful. And then as we were working on building that device, my friend Matt said, hey, why don't you do a mobile version as well? And I kind of said, that's an insane idea. Why wouldn't we do it?
Why would we
put this in mobile? It's never going to work. It's crazy. But of course, not very long after, I kind of thought, maybe he's onto something. And so he went away and built like a prototype of this app, which meant that as I was working on the hardware device, he created basically the whole same thing. And the same time it took me to build this hardware thing, he built something that was way, way better in much less time, and spent a lot less money doing it in the process. It was kind of hilarious. So yeah, that was Trigger Trap. So it's now live as a app, and you can use stuff like sound and vibration triggering, facial recognition stuff. So if you wanted to...
He's going to demonstrate now.
I am going to demonstrate, because I'm proud of this. This is a cool little device. I'm not very good at using my phone upside down. The cable comes out of the top there. Ooh, right, so if I put that down for a second, can we see things? Yeah. Well.
Yeah.
So if I now knock the table, it takes a picture with my camera. So the cool thing about that is uses the...
Let's see that one more time.
Let's see that one more time?
Okay.
If I knock the table, you can probably hear that camera up going on. But yeah, so basically what it does is it uses the vibration sensor built into the phone to measure any vibrations, and then whenever it senses a slight tap, it's actually not as sensitive as it could be. There we go. If it senses a slight tap, it triggers the camera. Let me stop that, otherwise it's going to go.
Yeah, every time.
And lots of other ways of triggering as well. So it's kind of a cool way of doing stuff when you're not manning the camera yourself. So for time lapses and for that kind of stuff.
Yep. I've got another question.
Go on.
Unless you have anything more to say about Trigger.
Oh yeah, I do have one more thing to say, which is that the same discount code that works in the Ilex shop, you can use on the Trigger Trap shop. If you go to triggertrap.com and put in Ilex Live, you get a 15% discount for the next 24 hours. So when we're done,
so
get your order in, and then it stops working after a bit.
Get a wriggle on, people.
Yeah. What's the question?
We have a question from Rachel, who asked us... I've lost it now. I had it right there. Oh no, I found it. What are your favourite images from our books, and why?
That's a really tough question. I'm going to have to have a look.
Well, I can tell them what my favourite image of me is in this book.
Go for it.
Because I've got a little section in this book, being a contributor to it and all. And it is... I can't find the section on me, though, which doesn't really help, unfortunately.
Well, I can show you mine. One of my absolute favourites is this one by Leslie June, which I don't know if we have a close shot. I can try and hold it up. This is such a fantastically low... There we go. Try and angle that one. On page, when you buy the book, 103. It's basically a girl sitting in what looks like a desert with several moons and stuff. I absolutely love this photo. It's such a cool and fragile looking person in an enormous landscape that just looked post-apocalyptic hell. But it's just such a beautiful self-portrait. I really, really like this.
My favourite photo that I submitted to this book is this little one here in the bottom, which you probably can't see very well. Oh, there we go, hold it up a bit. It's me sitting actually in my brother's bedroom, which has beautiful Venetian blinds in it. It's called Subterfuge. I had to supply that photo at the last minute because the one that we had wanted to include, we couldn't for copyright reasons because the background of this photo was a copyrighted image, unfortunately.
Oh.
Yeah, it was a bit of a shame because that's a really lovely photo. And I had to hurry that one along to meet the print deadline. But at the time, I actually had a really huge black eye. Not because I'd gone 10 rounds with Mike Tyson. I think he might just do me with one punch. But I had my wisdom tooth was coming through, and it gave me a black eye. And I had to produce this image in a real hurry. But it just was a great opportunity to do something a little bit different, a little bit crazy, to hide the fact that I had a black eye. But now you all know I had one anyway. But that's my favourite one.
Awesome.
That's why that's my favourite photo in that book. In this book, I don't know. Of the
I love the cover a lot.
The cover of this book is absolutely fantastic, and that was produced by oh God, I can't remember his name now. That's absolutely awful.
How very dare you?
I know, it's awful. But my absolute favourite of the book is this one, which is actually a pinhole picture of a diorama, and that was produced by a woman called Bethany DeForest, who is Belgian, and she constructs dioramas using all sorts of found materials, if you like, and that was constructed of ball bearings and a polystyrene box, and she was inspired by Hungarian bathhouses. And then she makes a pinhole camera and she inserts it into the diorama and takes a photo that way.
That's such a cool idea.
It's such a fantastic idea. There's no Photoshop involved in it. It's all actual physical things that she uses to make these beautiful, surreal looking images.
I saw a thing recently as well. Somebody who did it's called Landscapes from the Kitchen Table or something.
Yep, I think I've... yeah, that
which is amazing. There's this guy who takes these basically stuff you find in your kitchen, like mud and salt or different salts or just fruits or something, and turns it into complete landscapes. It looks amazing, and it looks like they could be landscapes, but for a rainy day, I guess. Rainy day landscape photography.
There's so much photography that you can do on a rainy day, though, just to keep yourself occupied and to have fun, just trying new things out, like making pillars of salt or whatever, and having a go and seeing how much of a macro shot you can achieve with just the lens that you have if you don't have a macro lens, because it's completely possible. You just have to try. And yeah, if the weather's nasty and miserable, you've got nothing better to do, get your camera out, get your tripod out, have a fiddle, have a play. There's all sorts of fun stuff you can get up to.
Awesome.
Like building dioramas.
Ah, yes. I just had my beautiful assistant behind the camera here remind me of something. I said that this thing was selling pretty well.
Oh, there you are.
Ah, there we are. I said that this thing was selling pretty well, which it is. But the amazing thing I found out was that it's also available on the Samsung Learning Hub. I'll be perfectly honest, I didn't actually know that this thing even existed. But what I did like is that the Rules of Photography is the very, very top best-selling app on here, which is just the most amazing thing ever. It's fantastic. It says so right here, top paid, my name. Isn't that wicked?
That's your name. That's you.
Makes me feel famous.
Aww.
It's really cool. I like that.
That's pretty awesome.
Cool. I believe, what are we doing next?
Are we wanting to talk about any exciting projects that we have coming up?
Yeah, what are you up to these days?
Mostly I'm working on Photocritic at the moment.
So what do you actually do on like a day-to-day basis?
On a day-to-day basis? Do you really want to know what the day is like for an editor of a photography website?
Well, I am kind of curious.
Okay. It starts fairly early, normally, when I check for emails from companies like Canon and Nikon and Olympus and see if they have any
press releases,
anything new that needs to be covered. And if I've been sent embargoed material, it's a case of putting it into the schedule, knowing about when I'm going to write it and double checking when it goes out, and when it can go out. It's a case of checking Twitter to see if there's anything interesting happening, looking around for other cool stuff to share with people. I spend a lot of time just looking for pretty pictures or interesting articles or great news stories and sharing them via Twitter. Then it's a case of, after that, writing. scheduling articles, talking to people. I get emails that come in asking me questions about things, and then I might need some lunch or a cup of tea. And
so, how do you actually find news? How does, or like apart from the press releases, how does news happen?
Sometimes you just get people drop you an email saying, "Hey, I found this really cool thing. What do you think?" Or, "I'm doing this really cool thing. Could you possibly promote it?" So it's not a press release that's come from a big company. It's just an individual.
Somebody who's gone, "I've got a really cool photo project."
Yeah.
That's really cool.
Can you have a look at this? A lot of the time, although I don't just cover the news, I try to write more editorial things. So recently, Adobe announced that it was moving all of its Creative Suite packages, programs rather, to the cloud, and it was going to call it Creative Cloud. And there were a lot of people who were quite upset about this, but after the storm had died down, if you like, I sort of sat down and thought, right, this is actually what it means for us. And if you use it like this, you probably want to continue to use it. If you use it like this, you might want to think about looking elsewhere. And if you use it like this, do definitely start looking elsewhere.
So a bit more of an in-depth analysis kind of thing. That's kind of cool.
So that's how I spend my days. And then, of course, there's the photography school.
Might the voice of God ask, how did you actually feel about it yourself?
I think I saw it, a lot of us saw it coming quite a long way off. They're moving it from being a product to a service.
Yeah. Our publisher Alistair has been predicting this for many years.
Yes, but it's moved from a product to a service. So if they continue to supply the absolute best programs to do what I want them to do, that's fine. And if they provide the support that I think I deserve and might need, that's fine. And if the updates are coming through almost automatically without having to wait 6 months for an upgrade, that's not so bad. And if they keep the pricing as it is, I think it's about £18 for a standalone product a month. It's not that terrible, but they have to prove that they really want my business. So I'm hedging my bets at the moment. I am looking around for alternatives, but I will be subscribing to Photoshop. I mean, my primary editing suite is Lightroom. That's where I do most of my editing, and that is staying standalone for the moment. And I'm not looking to change that. But no, they've got to earn my business.
I think that's done a really interesting thing actually, because obviously Photoshop is one of those suites that is really struggling with piracy, and I imagine if they manage to make it more manageable to actually subscribe to a service rather than having to pay £600 for a piece of software, is kind of a lot of money. If you can break that down and get to always updated software, maybe that works for some people.
I think people pirate software for lots of different reasons, and one of them is just because they don't think they should pay for it. It doesn't matter how much it costs, even if it were a penny,
that's true,
they would still not pay for it.
But it's kind of like Netflix and Spotify, isn't it? They've gone that route where instead of pirating, it actually becomes easier to just pay for it, and then you have everything you need.
But I think there are some people who are just fundamentally opposed to it and therefore won't. And not only that, but if you can make something, you can break it. So people will somehow find a way to pirate it, even if it is in the cloud.
Yeah, no, I've no doubt of that.
It's an anti-piracy move, I'm not so convinced.
No? Makes sense.
I think it's just a case of reeling people in.
Cool. So, my favouriteest project that I've been working on recently is stuff like time lapses, which I've been hugely into. And we did a bit of a campaign recently where we actually went and found a photographer who could show off a really cool time lapse. So I think we can actually play that.
We can indeed.
I will also. Can people still hear me? Fantastic. I will also tweet that link to that thing so you can have a look at with the sound and stuff in high def.
Oh, it's not going. I didn't do anything, I promise. It wasn't me.
It's a really, really beautiful time lapse.
It is gorgeous.
It's just my friend Sai Stepanov, who's gone and basically spent, I think, several weeks traveling in the area around Seattle, and posted a lot of time lapses. He's been running around here with this massive rig, doing all this beautiful, beautiful time lapse stuff. And the funny thing is, he's used Trigger Trap to make all these things. Oh, there's Trigger Trap. He's used Trigger Trap to make all these things. But the thing that I never kind of somehow didn't click in my head is that, it's not that hard. Getting it to look this good is tricky, but it's kind of an approachable thing. So what we tried is that we have a new person in the office who we asked, hey, do you want to go and do a time lapse? And he gave it a shot, and the first time lapse he did looked absolutely amazing. It just turns out it's a lot easier than it's easier to get started than it sounds, and then doing this is a hell of a lot harder.
Okay, I'm going to end with a final thought on things being easier or harder than you think they are.
Yeah.
My brother was in a dance competition recently for charity, and I know that you wrote an article years and years and years ago about how hard it was to do dance photography.
Oh, yeah.
So I went along thinking, oh my God, it's going to be really, really hard. And guess what? It was. And I think a lot of it was because I thought it was going to be really, really hard.
Yeah.
The corollary to this is that I also do a lot of cooking. And I was watching the Great British Bake Off last summer. I was addicted to it, probably as about half the nation was as well. Now waistbands expanded at the same time. And they were all saying how making a chiffon cake was really, really hard. And I sort of went, really? I've been making those since I was about 12. They're not that hard. So don't ever let anyone tell you that something is hard, because you will just think it's hard. Okay, just go out there and think, I can do this, and have a go.
Awesome.
That is my top photography tip for today.
Cool. I just love this stuff. It looks so beautiful.
It is, it's gorgeous.
Anyway, so I've just tweeted that link so you can have a look at your own leisure. And I believe we have a honourable task to do. You were at photo.
Oh, I forgot about that.
You were at the photo show recently.
I was. I was at Focus on Imaging with the Ilex team.
Yep.
And a lot of the time we encouraged people to sign up to the Ilex mailing list, and we said that if they did so, they could be in with the chance of winning an iPad mini. Dun dun dun, there it is.
Ta-da!
Ta-da. And the draw has been made.
Okay.
The
Who is the lucky winner?
person winning the iPad mini, courtesy of Ilex and the Ilex Instant website, is Debbie Underhill from Birmingham.
Congratulations, Debbie.
Well done.
I'm sure somebody will email you and get your address, and then this gets flown over to you like...
Yeah, we're not going to walk off with it.
I'm going to jog over to Birmingham right now and hand it over. Awesome.
Okay.
So I think we're going to wrap.
I think we are.
Thank you so much for watching, guys. That was really fantastic.
It was a great afternoon.
There is another webcast coming up next month, I believe, with Robert Houghton for...
Blogging for Create.
That's Robin.
Robin. I'm frightfully
He
sorry.
can't read his own handwriting, is the issue.
Yeah, that tends to be
It's
the
Robin
problem.
Houghton, and it's Blogging for Creatives. Well, he's the author of Blogging for Creatives, anyway.
She.
Okay.
Can we try this again? Robin, we're frightfully sorry here.
We just made... Yeah. Really, really sorry.
Anyway, Robin Houghton has written a fantastic book called Blogging for Creatives, and will be on this side of the camera.
Not with us, to exist. Okay.
And it will be amazing. So have a look at Photocritic, because we're super proud of it, and it's just
Very
launched. Take a look at the books, and you get a 50% discount to download them. Of the
PDF
Instant.
versions.
Yeah. And tweet us any other questions you have. We'll be on Twitter on the train home, I think. And thank you so much for having us. I've been Haje.
And I'm Daniela.
Have a good one.